these guys are really focused. What I appreciated is just watching them all have their own routines and have their own plan and you can look at that true essence of a professional. They don't need to be told, or held their hand what needs to be done.
Welcome to Champions Mojo Weekly Podcast, where your hosts Kelly Pallas and Maria Parker share with you what it takes to be a champion. Kelly is a former Division I head swim coach, Olympic trials qualifier, and holds Masters World and National swimming records, and Maria holds world records in endurance cycling and was the overall women's winner of the world's toughest bike race, Race Across America. They'll be sharing their personal stories and wisdom, along with interviewing other champions to give you the tools you need for becoming a true champion in your own life. And now, your host, Kelly Pallas.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo podcast, where I am so excited today. We will be talking with Lenny Krayzelburg, the general manager of the LA Current Professional Swim Team, which is a member of the newly formed International Swim League, or known as the ISL. The LA Current team roster of pro swimmers reads like a who's who of American swim champions, making it a fan favorite team. They have such Olympic stars as Nathan Adrian, Ryan Murphy, Kathleen Baker, Ryan Held, and that's just to name a few. And I see on that LA roster, we've got some Olympic stars coming up that they aren't household names now, but they will be in the future. But Lenny certainly knows a thing or two about what it takes to be a champion. His own resume is incredible. At the Olympic level, he earned 4 Olympic gold medals. At one time, he has held the world record 5 times in the 100 and 200 meter backstroke, where he won his Olympic golds. And then he was twice part of an Olympic gold, winning 4 by 100 medley relay back-to-back Olympics. His stellar career, he was also named world champion, 11 times national champion, Pan Pac champion. He was honored by USA Swimming as Swimmer of the Year twice. We're really looking forward to chatting with Lenny, and his resume could go on and on. Before I do, I want to say hello to my co-host, Maria Parker. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Kelly. I'm delighted to be here talking with Lenny today. It's going to be awesome to hear about him because he's gone from gold medal swimmer to gold medal businessman, and his vision for the future should be really interesting. Besides being the general manager of the LA Current, over a decade ago, Lenny also created a very successful business of swim schools, now called Swim Right Academy, championed by Lenny Krayzelburg, which offers franchise opportunities that help kids learn to swim. Lenny's passionate about water safety and swimming ability for every child. I love how he's engaged in the sport of swimming from the smallest child to the most elite professional swimmers, and I cannot wait to hear what he has to say today. Welcome, Lenny.
Absolutely. Maria, me too. So let's welcome Lenny to the show. Great to have you here, Lenny. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Champions Mojo.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I really appreciate that very nice introduction of me. Really excited to be here and chat with you.
Super. We were chatting before the show started that we have had 4 of the LA Current members on our podcast. We had the coach, David Marsh, and swimmers, Ella Easton, Margot Gear, and Ryan Held. And all of those were very popular episodes. And the fans are getting to know the swimmers and the coaches, and that's what we want. So let's jump to the first question, Lenny, which is, how is it going?
So far, it's been going great. The 2 matches that LA Current participated in, Dallas and Budapest, were pretty incredible experience. It was incredible for me to be part of it. But what is more important is how incredible and the feedback we received from our athletes. They loved it. Obviously, none of us have ever had an opportunity to be part of something like this. It's different, it's exciting, it's fast, and our athletes loved it. And, the league is all about showcasing our athletes, our stars, And if we can create a platform for them to shine and love it, we can accomplish a lot.
That's great. What made it so fun for your athletes, Lenny?
Well, obviously, the format of it is very different to what we typically consider or experience at swim competitions. It's finals only. It's quick. It's only 2 hours. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of energy in the pool area in the arena. Obviously, swimming, being part of the team and swimming for the team is very different to what our athletes are used to. I thought that brought a different level of excitement to it, and just the energy was really high. And I think all of these factors combined were very, what brought out that excitement and experience.
I've wondered if the ISL for your swimmers is, I don't want to say, just maybe they're under a little bit less pressure and they can have more fun, or do they feel a lot of pressure to perform well for the team and for the country?
No, you said it perfectly. I think I've used that analogy quite a bit in the last couple of weeks since I've experienced it myself. There isn't as much pressure. And I think that that's what our athletes are appreciating so much. And I think that the way they're approaching it is they're enjoying it, because usually what they're used to is very when there's that much attention and when there is broadcasting, they're used to these high profile competitions, right? Either Olympics or world champs. So there's so much pressure to perform right there and then. This is a little different. There isn't as much pressure. This is probably for the first time ever they're looking at themselves truly as professionals. They know what they need to do when to prepare themselves, but also there is that level of just kind of just being relaxed a little bit. There isn't as much on the line, particularly in these preliminary matches during the season, and I think that all played into that kind of a laid back factor that they all felt and experienced.
One of the statistics that I heard that was so impressive to me was that 100% of the members of the International Swim League were participating in the World Championships, this past World Championships. And I find that is so elite. I mean, that the members of your team and all the teams across the board in the ISL are really the greatest swimmers in the world. So there are a lot of Olympic gold medalists that are now on the same team where they may not have been internationally. We've got these teams are mixed between Americans and non-Americans. Now I know that your team has a lot of Americans, but a lot of the ISL teams are mixed. And how do you think of that as far as making this an international platform?
Well, I think this is obviously another great, like a unique pillar of the league is that it is worldwide. I mean, you really don't see any professional sports leagues that encompass athletes from all over the world. I mean, you can look at maybe soccer in Europe, but I think it's more focused on Europe, even, with international players. But this is the only world league like that brings athletes from around the world, and many of them are participating on one team. And that's unique. I'd like to, based on my experience when I competed, I'd like to think that our sport in general is a very close-knit sport, especially at this highest level. A lot of the athletes know each other from number of competitions throughout the year. Many of them potentially have swum collegiately or competed against each other. So there's already an established relationship. And I think what's unique about ISL now is that a lot of these athletes now have a common purpose and goal because they could be representing one team. And that's what makes it so cool.
That's so great.
Yes. So you guys have the ISL's had 4 of these big meets so far. You have 2 of the regular meetups coming up, one in Washington, D.C., one in London, and then the big finale is going to be in Las Vegas in December, which is the final contest of the season. And that is going to pit 2 American teams against 2 European teams, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Top 2 Europeans and top 2 Americans will go to the final.
So what does the LA Current have to do to qualify for that Super Bowl, as I'm going to call it, a Super Swim Bowl?
Super Swim.
I like that analogy. It's very nice. I like it. We got to start using that. We have to be there first or second in our match this weekend in DC. And in order for us to I guess, stamp the ticket to Vegas.
Very nice. Very nice.
I hope you can do that. That'd be exciting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We are pretty confident that we can do that. Our athletes are pretty excited about racing this weekend, and again, our ultimate goal, and even throughout this whole season, the previous 2 competitions, we are focused on making it to Vegas and being our best there.
That's great.
That would be wonderful. So one of the things that I love, there's a lot of coverage around the ISL now through, like our podcast gets a lot of downloads. We have a lot of swim fans that listen. And then, of course, one of the top news outlets is SwimSwam. And SwimSwam just did a wonderful survey of what attracts you swim fans out there to these pro teams. Like, why are you choosing to support a team? And the U.S. has the Cali Condors, the D.C. Trident, the L.A. Current, which is your team, and the New York Breakers in the U.S. And the response from the fans, I'm sure you've seen this, but our listeners may not have, not all of our listeners, is that they pick their team based on the swimmers, which I just loved. I just love that, like, you just get attracted to a swimmer that you're following and you follow them. So what are your thoughts around the future of how these swimmers can get to know their fans better? What kind of things do you see in the future for fans to know the swimmers and vice versa?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, that's something that it will be my responsibility as a general manager to be able to establish a grassroots relationships with our athletes and our fan base. Obviously, being attached to LA Current, there's we want to have that presence in LA, but we also understand that at the moment, none of our athletes are actually based in LA. So we need to start creating more of a engagement with fans around the country, and that's something that's going to be a focus going into this off season. To do that, I think now that we're getting a better feel of what the league is and how the season goes and some of the things we want to improve on and be better at, this is something that we certainly going to focus on. The other part of it is obviously, establishing a good relationship with our athletes and building the team camaraderie so that we can have our athletes on the roster going into next year and few years after that. Because at the end of the day, this season, it's everyone is in a 1-year contract. So next year things could be different, and I think that's really has been my main goal, is to have the right coaching staff and have the right energy and excitement and build relationships within our team. I think that's going to be a key factor to bring majority of our roster, if not the whole roster, back for next year.
That's great. Kelly and I are very interested in the ISL because of the opportunity it brings to swimmers. And, we've talked about how in the past, a good swimmer had, basically once every 4 years, they might get some press, but other than that, no. And so now we have this terrific opportunity for people to really follow swimming. But you have taken a successful swimming career before the ISL and made a terrific, it looks like to me, a terrific career, creating the swim school franchises. And so I guess I'm curious is, how you think that the ISL could potentially change things. I know you must have worked really hard to make money as a swimmer after your gold medals, but I'm interested, is this ISL going to be a real game changer for future swimmers?
Well, we want the ISL to be a game changer. This is the goal. The goal is to put the sport on the map on a regular basis, not every 4 years like we are today, but to have our athletes be household names and to be on TV every year and to be on TV throughout the year. What this will obviously do is create more opportunities for our athletes.
How do you get the press around that though, Lenny? How do you get LA, the city of LA, to rally around the LA Current?
Well, again, at the end of the day, it all comes down to broadcasting. I think that creates the biggest exposure in terms of popularity. When it comes to LA specifically, I think what we're going to have to do, and it's going to be part of the requirement for next year, we're going to have to host at least one of our matches, if not two, because the talk next year is potentially expanding the number of teams and number of matches. So that's going to be our best opportunity to start building a fan base when we have local matches and we can control what that will look like, what type of sponsorships we can bring in, what type of engagement we can create, what type of grassroots programs we can build around our events. I think that's what's going to help us start to get more notoriety and build relationships in the local community here in LA. And then obviously that hopefully will be able to provide more opportunities for our athletes. I think we have to also realize something, and something I've communicated, we will continue to talk to our athletes about, is that if ISL grows and there's more exposure, it's an opportunity for each and every one of our athletes to build their own brand. Yeah. So they have to take the ownership in that and figure out how to do that. Obviously, with social media today, it's a little bit easier to build your brand and to build your personality. But it's work, like in anything else. If they want to be successful in the pool, they put in a lot of work, right? They're gonna have to try to do the same thing to build their brands.
I love that. Yes, I think that's great. And one of the things that you obviously were hugely successful as an athlete and now as a businessman, and you are around this team that you have full of champions. And we love to discuss and let our listeners hear, what are your thoughts, Lenny, on first rituals or routines that made you successsul as a swimmer and then as a businessman?
Rituals, routines. In terms of routines, I always had especially when I train and in my competitions, I always planned ahead of time. I knew exactly. So we're talking about major competitions or any competitions. I always had a very good plan and ahead of time. How I was going to approach the meet, what time my races started, what time I wanted to be at the pool, what time I wanted to jump in the water. So it was really planned out. I felt that was always a big advantage for me personally, to be prepared like that, because then I can really focus on the races then came somewhat naturally to me when I had a plan in mind. Quite honestly, I also took that type of an approach when I transition into business world, is trying to have a plan. And a roadmap of what I want to accomplish and how I want to accomplish that, and I try to follow that as much as I can. Obviously, in life, there's always going to be curveballs, and there's always going to be challenges. But I think as long as you have the right preparation and the right state of mind, and don't get overwhelmed by some of these challenges, I think eventually you will continue to thrive and be successful. And that's really the mindset I've always taken as an athlete, and applied it in my business career.
Lenny, I know that you came from the Ukraine how old were you when your parents brought you to
13.
13, and I assume you did not speak English at that time.
No, didn't speak
amazing.
a word of English.
So my daughter is living in Ukraine right now, and I know a little bit about the history because I visited her there, and fascinating. But I imagine that learning English as a 13-year-old, on top of turning your world upside down, that must have been an incredible challenge. Can you tell us about that?
When I sit and reflect back on it right now, or years as I gotten older and became an adult, so yeah, you can look at it and say it was incredibly tough and challenging. But when you're in the moment, and when your parents talked about coming to a country for better opportunities and for better life, and when you're in it every single day, you don't think about the challenges. You're thankful for the opportunity, and you're trying to make the best out of it every single day, and you search forward, and you just take every day as a day to excel, and be the best you can be, and try to take advantage of every opportunity that you have, and be appreciative of everything that you have. And that was really always my approach. I've always looked at it this way. I also always, my parents were always my role models in terms of just, grinding and hard work, and no excuses. This is what you have today, and you have to deal with it, and that's how I approached it. And yeah, sure, there was a lot of challenges along the way when you're in a new country, but it was still better than the alternative, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Well, I know
that's how I looked at it.
I've tried to read Cyrillic when I'm in Kiev, and I can't imagine trying to learn a whole new alphabet and a language at 13. So, but I love your attitude about it.
Thank you. By the way, I don't speak Ukrainian, so
Okay,
I only speak Russian, because
Yeah.
and that's actually, it's interesting because people always ask me where I'm from. I left in '88, so
Right.
it was still Soviet Union.
Yeah, it was before.
So for me,
uh-huh.
I don't speak Ukrainian. So for me, it's sometimes I quite honestly, I'm at loss. What do I answer? Am I Ukrainian? Was I born in
Yeah.
Ukraine, or was I born in
Yeah.
the Soviet Union?
Yeah.
A younger generation today, quite honestly, might not even know what Soviet Union is. They know
Right.
Russia, right?
Right.
So, sometimes I'm confused myself how to answer.
That's great. So you talked about your mindset in that answer, which is just to be grateful, it seems, and then to just do the next thing. Is there more? Do you observe a mindset in your athletes that you can also share with us? Anything else?
In terms of the athletes that I've experienced over this past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm getting to know a lot of them. Majority of them are a lot younger than me, so I think Matt Grievers might be the only guy that actually I was talking to. Matt was, I think, 15 or 14 at 2000 Olympic trials when I made the Olympic team, and I remember he was in the finals in 2004. But obviously, these guys are a bit younger. And so I'm just getting to know them and their personalities, but it seems like it's I haven't been around this environment in quite some time, but these guys are really focused. Like what I appreciated is just watching them all have their own routines and have their own plan, and you can look at that true essence of a professional. They don't need to be told, or held their hand what needs to be done. Everyone kind of had a plan. Obviously coaches were sending them workouts, and our coaches that were on deck were just basically there to time or do whatever they needed to do. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of independence with these guys, and they were doing very well. And it was nice to see that.
They're all
fantastic.
professionals.
Very professional. Everybody has a plan. So our last question, we know we've got to let you go soon. So if you just had an absolute magic wand and you could see the ISL becoming your most successful vision, let's fast forward 5 years from now, what does that look like for you?
How do you know I don't have a magic wand? No, listen, in 5 years from now, what I would want to see is obviously the league being mainstream. I would want to see us being on TV for 6 months a year throughout the season. I would want our athletes to be making, salaries to be in hundreds of thousands of dollars, and for them to be truly professionals where all they do is focus on their career, that they don't have to worry about, where they're going to make the next dollar so they can pay for their training and, figure out how to make ends meet. To me, that's the goal. That the goal is, for us to be sustainable clubs. And at the end of the day, if we can be in the same conversation as other professional leagues, that is my vision. And I believe it's doable because we have a wide reach. I mean, swimming is such a popular sport around the world. And this league really has an opportunity to be a worldwide league on all 5 continents. And that would be pretty incredible.
I love that vision. I love that vision. I want to add Super Swim Super Bowl rings. Do you give Super Bowl rings?
I love it.
That's a good idea. I will suggest that to people this week in DC.
Yeah, great.
I love it. Well, we've got to let you go. We know we would love to talk with you longer, but you are a busy businessman, and we are so grateful that you spent the time with us. And we hope we're going to be cheering for you. And good luck in your next 2 events.
Thanks very much for taking the time, Lenny.
Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate the conversation, and thank you for the support and cheering us on. And we all look forward to greater success in this league.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, that was fantastic, Maria. I really, really enjoyed that.
We're both so interested in the ISL. I just cannot wait to see what the ISL does, and I think that it was really great to be right there on the ground floor talking to Lenny about it and what they've already experienced. What a great guy and great interview.
Absolutely. So let's each do a couple of takeaways. What was your first takeaway, and then I'll do one.
Well, I sort of suspected it, but I was really glad to hear Lenny confirm that these meets, these professional swim meets, are really fun for the swimmers. That they're lighthearted and that they enjoy them because there's a little bit less pressure on them. So, I guess my first takeaway is that everybody does better probably when they have fun, and I think if the ISL is to succeed, we need to see the swimmers as humans, not as, automatons, but as humans interacting, smiling, laughing, fun, like any other professional sport that we watch on TV. One of the reasons I watch football is to see what happens, on the sidelines, how the players interact with one another and see that they're having fun and, just high-fiving and so forth. So I hope we get to see that with this ISL. But anyway, the takeaway is having fun makes everything look better and be more appealing. And I think everybody just does better when they think about having fun, or at least the pressure is off.
Yes, that's a great one. That, having fun relieves pressure. It's just like anything you're doing that requires some thoughtfulness. When you have fun, you do better at it. Like golfing. Mark and I went golfing yesterday, and He was trying to make every shot, and he's really serious about his golf, and I'm just totally having fun. And I outscored him on 2 holes of 9, which was unbelievable.
I bet it drove him
because
crazy.
I was just, I don't, I'm not invested in golf, but he is. So
that's really true. If you do not feel pressure to perform, then you actually can often do better. So that is interesting, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway there. So my first one was, I loved how he said that planning was a big part of his success as a swimmer, and then transferring that into being a businessman. And we've kind of titled this the gold medal swimmer to gold medal businessman, with his franchises that he's got, and his obviously being the GM of the ISL. But that even when, he was a swimmer, that was something that he really planned out, like when he was going to get to the pool, what he was going to do, when he was going to hit the water. And he also saw that routine or ritual in his champion athlete teams, that these performers were so professional that they had a plan, that they didn't need any hand holding. They knew when to get in the water. They knew when to warm up. They knew when to warm down. They had a plan. So I love that. And I think this is as simple as when I love entrepreneurism. I think people who go out and create their own businesses, and I'm sure we have some people listening that are, may have a side hustle or be running a business. And I remember when I've done several startup businesses, which I have done, that the question that always crushed me was, well, can I see your business plan? It would be like, oh, because
what business plan?
And we have a big business plan now for the first time with Champions Mojo.
With Champions Mojo,
and I haven't had a lot of business plans. But I think they're really important, and that's why there's a term called business plans. But I love that. I love the planning aspect of needing planning to be successsul.
Well, absolutely. And this builds on other things that champions have said about when you actually, go to perform, you followed your plan. It gives you a mental edge. And he said that pretty much. He said, I think I've done well because I've had a plan and maybe others haven't. So I thought that was I totally agree with you, Kelly, on that.
Awesome. So, what's your second one?
Yeah, my second one was, and I just really heard this so clearly, and it just really impacted me, when I asked him about the hardship of coming to the U.S., not speaking English as a 13-year-old. Gosh, just being 13 is like the hardest thing in the world. So imagine, coming across, cultures, and it's not just Europe. He was coming from Russia, or what was then Russia, or USSR. And he said, I'm going to really make this, kind of crystallize what he said. I was grateful. I didn't think, oh, this is hard. I just tried to do the next thing. And I was grateful for this opportunity that my parents gave me. And I love that. They came, they had financial difficulties. We've read that he at one point had to take the bus and walk for 2 hours to swim practice and from swim practice, and he didn't get home till 9:30. And he dismisses all that with, well, I was really grateful for the opportunity. And I just think that is amazing to be able to say that he came from another country. He grabbed the American dream. He became a naturalized citizen. He won 4 gold medals for the U.S. and then went on to become a successful entrepreneur. This guy, no complaints, just do what you got to do.
Yes.
And I think that the gratitude, it's just such a great way to look at your life. This is, even difficulties are opportunities, and we can be grateful for them.
Yes, that was, very powerful stuff when he said, well, I didn't even think of it as hard. He said, I didn't even think of it as hard. I just thought of it as an opportunity. And that's the power of gratitude. That is just that was beautiful. I love that takeaway.
I think he had good parents too. It sounds like he really had some great role models in his family.
Yes, and in that we didn't have a whole lot of time with him today, and maybe we could have gone into a little bit more detail on when he first came into America and how hard it was for him. But we did read all that, and it also said that he had a really good community around him that was very helpful. So another part of, having a team and having people supporting him. So that was beautiful. So my second takeaway, my last one, was his vision. Just that his vision for the future of the ISL was beautiful. And, I don't need to reiterate his vision because you just heard it. But the idea, which was funny, and we had a little glitch in our recording, which I don't know if the listeners heard it or not, but he did say it, and hopefully we can still recover it from this clip. But I asked the question, if you had a magic wand and could make the future of the ISL anything you want, what would it be? And then he said, how do you know I don't have a magic wand? And I thought that was really clever, and that when one visualizes that powerful future that Lenny has for the ISL, it is like having a magic wand. You and I, Maria, just talked about that offline, and I think that is, and in fact, the very last episode that we just had that hopefully everybody listened to was Lewis Pugh laying down 30 minutes a day, just visualizing his success. And I think that champions do that, winners do that. Lenny has this vision for the future of the ISL, and I think the more of us that have that vision for the ISL, it is like magic, and it will happen.
Yeah. So, and the vision has to be detailed, and I think that's what champions do. That's what Lewis Pugh did. That's what Lenny knows exactly what it's going to look like when it's successful, and that is his magic wand.
Yes, I love it. Well, wonderful, so exciting, and we're just about a month out from the what did we name it? The Super Bowl swim in Las Vegas. So
yeah, Super Swim.
Yeah,
Las
we're
Vegas.
We're gonna be there.
We're
going to be there, and we're going to stay very connected to the ISL, and we're going to have a lot of their athletes on our podcast and learn from these champions. And we hope that you'll stick around with us because we've got some exciting shows coming up.
Yes. Thank you very much for listening.
Yep. Thanks, Maria. Love you.
Love you too, Kelly. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Today's quote of the week comes to us from Lenny Krayzelburg. When I transitioned into the business world, I tried to have a plan, a roadmap of what I want to accomplish and how I want to accomplish that. That's really the mindset I've always taken as an athlete and applied it in my business career.
We are so grateful that you spent this time with us today, and we hope that you heard something that inspired, motivated, and educated you. Signing off for myself and my champion co-host, Maria Parker, we hope you'll join us again soon, and we know you can be a champion. Thank you for listening, and please see below for a copy of the show notes for any links or important information that we've referenced here.
You've been listening to the Champions Mojo podcast, designed to make you feel inspired, motivated, and educated. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Also visit championsmojo.com to learn more.